Tim Donaghy was at the top of his game. A referee in the National Basketball Association, he loved the limelight, was considered one of the NBA's better refs, and was making almost $300,000 a year. But he was also living a secret life. During the last 4 years of his 13-year career, he committed a personal foul. He betrayed the fans and the league by betting on NBA games, including some he was officiating. Donaghy won about 75% of his bets, an incredible percentage confirmed by the FBI. Tonight, Tim Donaghy speaks out publicly for the first time, telling us why he bet on NBA games, how he won so often, and how his world collapsed. And what a world it was. It was your dream job?
Yes.
Why?
I think I had an opportunity to run up and down the floor with the greatest athletes in the world. I just loved the game of basketball. Growing up, my goal was to somehow be a part of it.
So everything was going just fine?
It was a dream situation all around.
And then you committed the cardinal sin. You started betting on NBA games, including games that you were reffing yourself.
Yes.
What were you thinking?
Obviously, I wasn't thinking to cross that line.
Why do you think you did it?
Because I fell into an addiction of gambling.
How did it begin?
Playing golf at country clubs and card games in country clubs in people's houses. And it just evolved from those type of situations to betting on athletic contests.
From card games to athletic contests to the NBA.
Yes.
Donaghy was betraying everything he and his family stood for. His father had been a respected ref in college basketball. Tim followed in his footsteps and went even further, making it to the NBA. But Tim said betting was more powerful than all of that, and winning was ecstasy. And did betting on the NBA give you a higher high than betting on other sports?
I think it gave me a higher high because I was able to predict the outcome of the games. And I think when you talk about gambling and the euphoria that comes with it, making winning picks is what excites you.
Euphoria. Real euphoria.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as you know, you were the only ref who was placing bets?
As far as I understand, yes.
How many games did you bet on?
I think I bet on probably over 100 games.
Over 100. And how many of those were you reffing yourself?
A lot.
And here's what you may find difficult to believe. Donaghy says that while his betting may have been illegal, his reffing was always honest. You're insisting that your betting did not influence the way you called a game. Why should we believe you?
Because the FBI did a thorough investigation, and even the NBA concluded that I did not fix games in the NBA.
That's right. A 29-year FBI veteran, Special Agent Philip Scala, led the investigation of Donaghy. He told us that Donaghy convinced him.
He said, knowing the information that I had, I didn't have to do anything on the court to pick a winner. I could pick a winner 80% of the time, just knowing what I knew an hour before the game. And watching the tapes, we could see that there was never something outlandish where you could see he called a foul or he omitted a foul because he wanted to see certain team win. We never saw that.
The NBA's investigation came to the same surprising conclusion. Quote, "It seems plausible to us that Donaghy may not have manipulated games. We are unable to contradict the government's conclusion." When you were reffing a game, didn't it come to your mind that you'd bet on one team and not on the other?
I tried to put it out of my mind, and I think that I was able to do that.
In one game, you were betting on San Antonio, but you threw their coach, Greg Popovich, out of the game.
And now, Greg Popovich has been tossed.
I didn't think about the bet during the game, and in my mind, he needed to be ejected.
Losing their coach cost San Antonio the game and cost Donaghy his bet. But that didn't happen very often. Donaghy claims, and the FBI concurs, that he won 70 to 80% of his NBA bets. You told the FBI, this is a quote, "You don't realize how easy this was for me knowing what I know."
Mm-hmm.
What exactly did you know?
I knew that there were certain relationships that existed between referees and players, referees and coaches, and referees and owners that influenced the point spreads in games.
What's a point spread?
A point spread is where a team is favored to win or lose by a certain amount of points.
You say that certain refs like or dislike certain players, certain coaches, certain general managers,
And certain owners.
You told us, I knew these guys, knew who they liked, who they despised, and who they would help or screw over. For example, Donaghy cited tempestuous superstar Allen Iverson. Some refs liked him, some did not. Natural enough. But Donaghy said several refs would let their feelings influence their calls by either favoring Iverson or favoring his opponents, and that would affect the score.
And I knew those relationships, whether they were positive or negative, had an effect on the game.
So you knew when Iverson was playing, and you knew which refs were there, you knew whether to bet on the Iverson team or on the other team.
Yes.
Iverson wouldn't talk to us. He didn't want refs to get mad at him. But his manager told us that the way the refs were treating him, some for, some against, made him sick.
I do believe Allen Iverson knew this, and I believe all the players know this, that certain referees treat them much better than others.
Donaghy told us that 2 years ago, Iverson had incurred the wrath of the refs.
He had threatened one of our officials, and the NBA fined him $25,000. And we felt as a group that he should have been suspended. And because he wasn't, we felt like we would teach him a lesson.
During that time, you worked an Iverson game January 6, 2007, so you bet against Iverson's team.
Correct.
Because you knew that all the refs were gunning for him. This was openly discussed.
Openly discussed. And I knew that the other two referees and I sought out to do a little justice of our own.
The refs quickly called curious fouls on Iverson, including rarely called fouls for palming.
And Iverson still upset about that palming call.
They threw his game off, and his team lost. According to the game's announcers, even late in the game, you kept hurting Iverson's team by letting defenders bludgeon him without calling any fouls. Watch.
Tim Donaghy will not call a foul when Iverson goes to basket. About 3 in a row where he got to the basket, got fouled, we thought, no call.
What are we looking at?
We're looking at a foul that was let go. Obviously, in the pregame meetings, we came to the conclusion that we were not going to give Allen Iverson any marginal plays to the basket. And that absolutely should have been called a foul that I and the other referees passed on.
Did anyone in the NBA know about it?
There was a group supervisor at the game that came in at halftime who was laughing and stated that he felt that Iverson had gotten the message.
So the supervisor approved of your punishing Iverson?
Yes.
The NBA would not let that supervisor or any of its refs talk to us. In that game, Donaghy did make calls that helped him win his bet, but he insists that wasn't the point. He says all he wanted to do was punish Iverson. But yes, he did win his bet. Special Agent Philip Scala, who retired from the FBI last year, told us Donaghy would bet on a game when he knew who the refs were and that they felt strongly about certain players. What does that tell you about how certain refs call games?
Most of the refs, we believed, were honest in calling the game as they had seen it. There was this aspect of judgment. A person should understand his bias and make sure he leaves that on the sideline.
But obviously that wasn't the case, or else Donaghy wouldn't have been picking 80% of the games.
There seemed to be some bleeding in that area.
Some bleeding sounds to me like an understatement.
Well, could be.
Now, you say that Donaghy cooperated with you. If he had lied to you, he would have faced a much longer sentence, no?
Yeah, so long as he was completely honest and omitted nothing, the FBI would stand by him. If we ever found out that there was a lie, that cooperation agreement would be ripped up.
And that never happened.
That never happened.
Donaghy told the FBI, and us, that NBA headquarters inadvertently helped him pick winners by sending refs instructions before a game. For example, he says he won several bets in a row by putting his money on the Los Angeles Lakers because he knew the league was going to favor their star, Kobe Bryant. He knew it because the Lakers had complained that refs had missed calling fouls on defenders who'd been blocking Bryant.
The Lakers had sent in a CD of 25 plays that they felt calls were missed when Kobe Bryant went to the basket. And I understood from the NBA office that 22 of those plays were missed by the referees. And I knew that Kobe Bryant was basically going to be given the opportunity to go to the foul line if somebody as much as breathed on him.
The NBA says its instructions to refs are meant to improve officiating. But Donaghy says those directives made it easy for him to pick winners.
Because it was inside information along the lines of knowing that a certain stock was going to be bought out before the opening bell in the stock market. So it's almost a guarantee.
Here's more of what you did. You would telephone refs who were about to officiate a game and pump them for information before the game. What kind of information are you looking for?
If there was a situation where there was a payback in order from a previous game.
Injuries?
Injuries certainly played a factor of just little gossip conversations that I would use in making a pick.
But the other refs did not know that you were using this information to place bets.
No.
So you were betraying your fellow referees.
Unfortunately, yes.
One former ref who feels betrayed is Mike Mathis, who used to head the referees union. He told us that refs speak openly among themselves about their personal prejudices.
In locker rooms, okay, referees do talk about players. You know, if a guy is sitting there saying he don't like so-and-so and this guy does this and he won't, keep his mouth shut, da-da-da-da-da, I can see where he could take that information and use it.
But Mathis says he was stunned that Donaghy actually did use it to place bets. And what do you think of what Donaghy did?
It's reprehensible. It took a career of mine, 25 years, and sort of washed it down the toilet.
So Donaghy really spoiled the reputation of all of you guys.
No doubt.
Mike Mathis is a man you respect, right?
Sure.
Mathis said your betting on NBA games was reprehensible. You agree?
Absolutely.
Did you feel that you were doing something wrong?
Sure, but obviously it was easy and it was exciting, and I actually didn't realize the consequences of my actions.
You didn't know that you were doing something that could get you into trouble?
Obviously it was in the back of my head, but I think you just go with the notion that you're not going to be caught.
You thought you could get away with it?
Yes.
And Donaghy might well have gotten away with it. He might still be reffing and betting today, but he fell in with the mob. How the mob brought him down when we come back. Tim Donaghy, the NBA ref who bet on games he officiated, was placing those bets through a friend. He was too scared of getting caught to do it himself. And their winning streak went on uninterrupted for 3 years. But in the 4th year, that friend let slip that he was getting his betting tips from an NBA ref. The mob found out about it and wanted in on the action. That's when Donaghy discovered what it means to be really scared. It started outside this hotel in Philadelphia. The FBI says 2 men associated with the Gambino crime family requested a meeting with Donaghy. They took him for a ride.
They came down and picked me up.
They picked you up?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened then?
They basically told me that I needed to give them the picks, and if I didn't, that it's a possibility that somebody would go down and visit my wife and kids in Florida.
Wow. And you believed them?
Yes.
Were you scared?
Sure.
From then on, his picks were relayed to the mob. And how did you communicate your bets?
I would discuss it with a high school friend of mine who would pass the information along to them.
And was there a code?
Yes. The code was if I wanted them to bet the home team, I would discuss his brother Chuck, and if I wanted him to bet the visiting team, I would mention his brother Johnny.
Do you have any notion how much the mob made off of Donaghy?
The FBI is very, very conservative in those aspects. We felt comfortable saying it was at least a few $1 million.
At least a few million.
Conservatively, that went into the coffers of organized crime.
And how much were you making?
I was making $2,000 per correct pick.
$2,000 per correct pick. That seems like peanuts if they were making millions.
It was.
Why didn't you ask for more money?
It wasn't about the money at that point.
It wasn't about the money.
It was just about getting through the season and hoping that it ended.
Because the mob put a lot of money on his picks, they were not good losers. We told you that in one game, Donaghy threw out the coach of the team they were betting on. That cost the mob the bet, and they were not happy.
They had questions as to why I did it.
And what did you tell them?
I just told them that I wasn't making calls in games to influence the outcome, and I'm not going to be able to obviously predict the winner every night, and they have to accept that that's what's going to happen.
Did the mob accept that?
I'm not sure that they accepted it or not, but that was the information that I passed to them.
As it turned out, his mob connection brought him down. The FBI, which was monitoring mob phone calls, heard that an NBA ref was betting on games. The information made it to Special Agent Philip Scala, who headed the FBI's Gambino Family Task Force.
One of the case agents had come into my office and said that they had information from a wiretap stating that there was huge sums of money being made and that someone thought that a ref may be involved.
So you got to Donaghy through the mob, really?
Yeah.
So if you hadn't gotten involved with the mob, you might still be out there reffing and betting on your own games.
Possibly.
So your big mistake was getting involved with the mob.
No, my big mistake was crossing that line and where I bet in the first place.
Tell me about the moment that you realized that the FBI knew that you'd be betting on NBA games.
A sickening feeling. The realization of that happening was just sickening.
Now, once you were caught, you decided to come clean and cooperate. Why?
I knew I did something that was obviously a bad choice, and I decided that moving forward it was not only in my best interest but my family's best interest to try and cut my losses.
You call it a bad choice. Isn't that something of an understatement?
Sure. It was a horrible choice.
He cooperated with the FBI to get a lighter sentence, but that exposed him to some dark problems. Were you contacted by anyone in the mob?
There were threats made to my home phone.
What kind of threats did you receive?
Death threats.
What did they say?
That I was going to be killed.
Did you believe them?
I wasn't sure.
Donaghy was sentenced to 1 year in prison, where he found he was not safe from the mob. He was threatened, then attacked.
There was one guy who claimed that he was associated with the mob and that he was going to get a gun and eventually blow my head off and break my kneecaps.
His head was untouched, but months later, one knee still needs therapy.
He whacked me with a stick and did some damage to my knee.
And now that he's out, he is still worried about retribution from the mob.
Well, certainly it's in the back of my mind, but I'm not going to live my life in fear. But I was informed by the FBI agents that they certainly had an eye on what they called these wise guys, and that if anything would come up, they would inform me immediately.
Do you believe that you will be protected?
Yes, I do.
Convicted of wire fraud and passing betting tips across state lines, Donaghy spent 11 months of his sentence in prison and was released last month. He could well have been sentenced to more than 5 years if he hadn't cooperated. His two mob cohorts, Thomas the Doctor Martino and James the Sheep Batista, denied ever threatening Donaghy and got sentences of 15 months and 1 year. Donaghy not only confessed his own sins to the FBI, he also blew the whistle on the NBA. He claimed that in the playoffs, the NBA does everything possible to extend series and to help big market teams advance. Longer playoffs with those chosen teams mean more money for the NBA. The NBA denies it and says Donaghy was making wild allegations hoping to reduce his sentence. Commissioner David Stern declined to speak with us. He didn't want the league to participate in a report about Donaghy. NBA Commissioner David Stern and other referees say that you have no credibility. You are a convicted felon, not to be trusted. They say refs are professional, and all this stuff about their personal feelings influencing the way they call games is nonsense.
I would say they have a very valid point, but I would again point back to the investigation that the FBI conducted and the fact that I was 100% truthful with them.
The FBI said that they believed you, that you were honest, but that does not necessarily mean that you're correct. You may have believed the NBA was tilting the playing field, but that doesn't mean that they actually did so.
I would answer that with the fact that I was still able to pick the games at a 70 to 80% correct rate.
But how much do you think you made in total?
Over the course of 4 years, betting on NBA games, I think I probably profited around $100,000.
Where's that money today?
Some of it's at casinos, some of it's paid off football debts, some of it's paid off luxury items for our house.
Now Donaghy has written a book titled Personal Foul, published by the VTI Group after Random House dropped it. It's about his betting scandal and his allegations against the NBA. But the league is striking back.
They keep trying to paint me as the rogue referee.
We think we have here a rogue, isolated criminal.
Aren't you the rogue referee?
I mean, I certainly made some terrible choices to do what I did, but the culture that existed within the game of the NBA enabled me to be able to do this at a very successful rate.
You said that to you basketball represented discipline, tradition, fairness, and integrity. You betrayed all of that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Have you learned to live with yourself?
It's tough.
But you brought it on yourself.
I certainly did.
What is the moral of your story? What message are you trying to put out?
We all have choices to make in life, and when we decide to go down that wrong road, it'd be better off backing up and realizing that not only do you affect your life with some terrible choices, but the lives of people you love the most, and that's your family.
How did it affect your family?
Ruined it.
His wife divorced him, and she has custody of their 4 daughters. Ironically, Donaghy says his scandal has actually improved NBA officiating because the league has made various changes to prevent refs from letting their biases influence their calls. Are you still watching basketball?
I haven't watched a game in 2 years.
You were involved in it for how many years?
My whole entire life.
What do you think would happen if you turned on your TV and watched a basketball game?
I would wish that I was out on the floor refereeing it.
And that's something that you'll never do again.
No.
Like compulsive drinking, there's nothing new about compulsive gambling. For as long as we can remember, there were always jokes about guys who robbed their kids' piggy banks to get a bet down on a sure thing in the third at Santa Anita. But if you happen to be one of those compulsive gamblers, or depended on one, the jokes weren't funny. And there didn't seem to be any treatment, short of suicide. But now that compulsive gambling, like alcoholism, has been officially listed as a psychiatric illness, hospitals have begun to treat it. In some cases, the treatment is paid for by medical insurance.
Look around the next time you're at a racetrack or casino. The experts say that at least 1 of every 20 people you see is a compulsive gambler or is on the way to becoming one. Compulsive gamblers don't normally put on lampshades at parties or get into drunken fights in bars, and they don't snort cocaine to keep their creative juices flowing. But the people who know are now sure they are responding to exactly the same pressures as addicts of alcohol or other drugs.
These people are not easy to find.
Joanna Franklin is a hospital therapist who works with compulsive gamblers.
They just look irresponsible, uncaring, and stupid. And that doesn't bring out the sympathetic, let's see if we can help these poor slobs, from other hospitals and treatment programs. They don't stagger, they don't slur their speech, they don't have dilated pupils, no marks on their arms. They just look like everybody else.
She's right. They do look like everyone else.
I got a high from going to the racetrack, yes.
Win or lose?
Win or lose. Definitely had a high. And my high started when I pulled into the parking lot.
Bob M. is a compulsive gambler. He's 28 years old. When he was 19, already married, his gambling went out of control. He was making $200 a week, but he was betting as much as $500 a day on the horses and the state lottery. It took hospital treatment to stop him.
How often did you go to the track? I was going to the track once a night.
Once a night?
Once a night.
And lose what you had, usually?
Yes. I was gambling the money away that my wife was expecting home. And 9 times out of 10, when I lost all the money, I'd become very depressed, and I would sulk and go home and beg for forgiveness. And
did she stop forgiving you finally?
yes, she did. She gave me an ultimatum. She said, either you stop gambling or I'm leaving.
Did she leave?
Yes, she did.
Was that what finally convinced you you were ready for treatment?
No.
You kept on?
I kept on. It got to a point where I was basically just numb. I went on like a weekend binge. I went out and wrote a lot of bad checks on an account that didn't even exist. I passed them on to a lot of people that trusted me, and that was the final straw.
He gambled away all the money, then ended his binge by checking into a Maryland hospital. There wouldn't have been a hospital to check into without this man. Dr. Robert Custer started the first treatment program for gamblers in 1972 in a Veterans Administration hospital in Brecksville, Ohio. He thinks states with lotteries are making more compulsive gamblers with their television commercials.
We hit it! Okay, you rich guys, back to work!
Those states, he says, should be using some of their lottery profits to treat the problems they create.
I think a fraction, maybe a half of 1% of those revenues should be used for the treatment of compulsive gambler, their families, research, and education. I think they should feel obligated to do that.
Dr. Custer is chief of mental health treatment for the VA, and there are now 5 veterans hospitals treating gamblers. Dr. Custer also helped start treatment programs in 4 private hospitals, including the one Bob checked into, Taylor Manor Psychiatric Hospital in Ellicott City, Maryland. Taylor Manor has an inpatient program lasting a minimum of 4 weeks. It's expensive, $10,500 for the 4-week stay, but many health insurance policies will pay most of the cost. Trouble is, by the time compulsive gamblers are ready to admit they need treatment, they've usually lost their jobs and their insurance. However it's paid for, says Dr. Joseph Shiroki, who heads the program at Taylor Manor, treatment begins with making the compulsive gambler feel safe.
What we attempt to do is, first of all, give them a safe environment where they won't feel the compulsion to gamble. And if we can break that compulsion, if they can break the compulsion, they can see they don't need it on a day-to-day basis. Frequently, we see gamblers go through almost a psychological withdrawal once they come into a hospital. They get themselves to the point where they start to feel anxious. You see them pacing back and forth. They start to experience many of the same symptoms that we see in drug abuse or alcohol abuse.
Taylor Manor has to teach gamblers how to relax.
What have you been working on?
Oh, breathing exercises.
Breathing exercises?
Yes. I'm trying to forget about my worries.
Anything else?
Mind relaxation.
Mental relaxation?
Yes.
Imagery?
Mm-hmm.
Progress is measured by biofeedback machines.
Now work on gradually releasing the tension using your mental imagery.
The next step, and not easy, is to get the gambler to face reality.
The gambler becomes almost delusional in his thinking about himself. They become very grandiose. It's like the laws of probability don't apply to them. And we find that video therapy, for example, can be very helpful, where the gambler will actually be videotaped during the session, and then they play it back for each other, and they can look at themselves and see, oh, yes, I was being, look how dishonest I was being there. Look how grandiose I was being. Look how manipulative. Look how I was trying to con that person there.
Compulsive gamblers convince themselves that one good day, a big win, will end their troubles. But it's really excitement they're after. The money is meaningless.
What they really want to gamble for is to be in action. And if you win, that's great. You can get back in action again real quick. If you lose, that's too bad, because now you have to scurry up more money to get back into action. But being in action is really the goal for compulsive gamblers.
And it's not just casinos and racetracks and bookies. And it's not just men. This woman, who asked us to film her from the back, poured hundreds of dollars a week into slot machines that pay off on winning poker hands.
If I put 1 quarter in the machine, I couldn't stop.
She allowed us to sit in on a session with her therapist at Taylor Manor.
I would run out of money, and I would borrow money from the owners of the bar or a friend there. And after a while, people didn't want to lend me money anymore. No one had nerve enough to confront me with what was going on. And as embarrassing as it was, I continued to do it. Because once I put 1 quarter in the machine, it took control over me, and nothing else mattered.
By admitting all this, by facing reality, the woman has started to recover.
My life wasn't going down a drain. It was going down a machine.
Once they've come that far, patients have to start straightening out the mess they left behind them. Whole families become involved in the treatment.
The one thing that really I don't think I will ever forget is when I came home one day from work and the refrigerator and the table were gone because my husband sold them to an auctioneer. And my son, who was about 5 at the time, and I were sitting on the kitchen floor eating peanut butter and jelly.
Even if the gambler's in recovery, there still may be no money for vacations, and there still may be no money to send the children to the schools that they would like to do. There's still no money to get the car replaced. And then the families start to get resentful. Oh, yes, you're doing better, and you say you're in recovery, but what's that mean to us right now? And so the resentment that families can have to the gambler, even in the recovery process, causes a lot of turmoil and conflict in the family.
Patients are formed into groups that meet once a week with therapists. Group members give one another the encouragement and sympathy they can't find anywhere else.
If you're a compulsive gambler, walk out of a place like this and try to even talk to a friend about it. You're better not even talking to them. You're better off because they don't understand.
Some of these people, including Bob, drive for hours to attend group sessions. Treatment doesn't end when they leave the hospital. Problems continue, especially problems with wives who don't understand.
Like I said, I haven't been a perfect angel, but I'm sure as hell trying, and she's just kind of trying to throw it all. You do all the work, and I'll just sit back and watch. So she doesn't seem to want to be too involved.
Taylor Manor estimates its success rate with compulsive gamblers at somewhere between 25 and 50%. Dr. Shiroki says 40% of the gamblers he sees are in so much trouble, they're thinking of suicide.
Taylor Manor Gambling Hotline, may I help you?
So Taylor Manor maintains a phone hotline for desperate gamblers or their families.
Well, we'll certainly be glad to help you. Do you want to tell me a little bit about what's going on with you right now and what made you make this telephone call?
The number is 1-800-LAST-BET. Taylor Manor and the other hospitals encourage patients to join Gamblers Anonymous. By itself, GA has helped thousands of compulsive gamblers to quit without hospital treatment. Gamblers Anonymous is patterned after Alcoholics Anonymous. In both, members are applauded when they volunteer to talk about their problems.
I'm Michelle R., compulsive gambler.
Hi, Michelle.
I made my last bet March 31st, 1985.
There are 582 chapters of Gamblers Anonymous in 39 states. This meeting was in New Jersey.
Now I'm coping with the problems on my job. I feel a lot better. My debts are going down. And I feel good about myself.
10 years ago, Dan Rather did a story for 60 Minutes about compulsive gambling. He went to a racetrack with a gambler named Irving North and North's 15-year-old son, Larry. He visited the North home in a New York suburb and met North's wife, Beverly, and their other children, twin boys 5 years old. North had been gambling for 30 of his 44 years and had lost millions of dollars. He had spent time in prison on bad check charges. His wife was threatening to leave him. In desperation, he checked into the VA hospital in Brecksville, Ohio for treatment.
Irving North, you've had a lot of experience with odds. Book the odds on your ability to whip it.
It's a long shot.
We thought it would be a good idea to look up Irving North, see how he's getting along. We found him.
North has spent more than 6 of the 10 years in prison for passing bad checks and parole violations.
Are you a compulsive gambler?
Well, I would say I am, yes. There's no question about it, but I don't think that there is any treatment, whether it be in Brecksville, Ohio, or in Baltimore, Maryland, or anywhere else, that's going to help a person. He's got to help himself. That's the only way he's going to stop gambling.
You'd have to want to stop.
You have to want to stop, and that's another thing. Gambling, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the two great thrills of life. The other, of course, being sex. And when something is thrilling, you're not going to stop.
His wife divorced him, and she and the children now live in Texas. North hadn't seen his son Larry in 2 years. We arranged a visit. Larry North doesn't gamble, ever. He runs a successful business in Dallas. You put the energy into your life that your father put into gambling?
More.
What if he'd done that?
He'd be extremely successful.
My regrets concerning my compulsive gambling, well, of course, it's being here in prison, but more than that, it's being alienated from my 3 sons, getting divorced, and being sort of a failure. That those are the only regrets I really have on gambling.
Bob M. is doing better. He hasn't made a bet in 2 years. He's back with his wife, and he's almost out of debt. Is it going to last?
I can't predict the future. I can't make that promise, but I won't buy another lottery ticket. I have the option of not buying a lottery ticket or buying a lottery ticket. That's my option. That's what keeps my sanity right now.
You don't think you're ever cured?
No, I've arrested my disease, but I haven't cured. There is no cure right now.
Irving North got out of prison last October. He's not working, but he still goes to the track and plays the horses.
Odds are the next big gambling mecca in the United States, a la Las Vegas or Atlantic City, is going to be New Orleans, Louisiana. Is it a sure thing? Well, gamblers will tell you there's no such thing as a sure thing unless the fix is in. And in this case, just about everyone we talk to in New Orleans thinks it is. If everything goes according to plan, the casino would be right over there, just off the Mississippi River at the edge of the French Quarter. 5 acres of slot machines and gaming tables. It would be the largest casino in the world, twice the size of Donald Trump's Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, and it's expected to rake in $1 billion a year.
It's also expected to be run by Caesar's Palace. The state of Louisiana hasn't even awarded the casino license yet, and some of the world's top gaming concerns are expected to compete for it, but just about everyone in New Orleans thinks the deck has already been stacked. Now meet the guy everybody thinks stacked it. He's at the end of the craps table there, Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards, and we found him gambling this past New Year's. Where else? At Caesar's Palace in Lake Tahoe. You would think with $1 billion casino deal in the works, Governor Edwards would avoid the appearance of impropriety, but that's not his style. In fact, he's spent his entire political career appearing to do the improper. And as a result, he's been investigated, indicted, but never convicted, of charges ranging from bribery to income tax evasion.
You're aware a lot of people think that the fix is in.
Oh, absolutely. No question about that. I mean, it does not matter who gets the casino thing. They're going to assume that somebody got paid off.
You think it has something to do with the fact that you've been investigated by...
17 times.
17 times.
By the most informed, educated, financed, aggressive, investigative bodies in the United States of America.
And the results of those 17 investigations?
I wouldn't be sitting here today as governor of Louisiana if I had ever walked across the line.
I, Edwin Washington Edwards.
Edwards was elected governor for the 4th time 2 years ago in a race some Louisianans called a choice between the devil and the crook, between David Duke, an avowed racist, and Edwards, the state's former governor who was twice prosecuted on federal racketeering charges. This time, he promised voters they'd see a new Edwin Edwards, but to Peggy Wilson, a New Orleans City Council member, he looks a lot like the old one.
If he's going to be like Caesar's wife, he should stay out of Caesar's Palace. It looks like he's got something going on.
Wilson opposes the casino. She thinks it will destroy the character of the French Quarter, a National Historic Landmark that draws 10 million visitors a year. People in New Orleans never got a chance to vote on the casino issue, and she thinks Governor Edwards shoved it down the city's throat.
I serve on a body where I have to know what's on the table and I have to know what's under the table.
And what's going on under the table?
Big things are going on under the table. There are perhaps promises, perhaps agreements on contracts, perhaps agreements to hire various people. There's a lot going on under the table.
Whatever's going on above or below the table, no one has produced any evidence that Caesar's Palace or Governor Edwards has done anything illegal. But people began to get suspicious of the governor's intentions when he guided the casino bill through a state legislature that is duty-bound by its own constitution to define and suppress gambling.
They changed the criminal definition of gambling to not include casinos. So in Louisiana, maybe in other places, casino gambling is gambling, but not in Louisiana. It's not gambling.
C.B. Ferguson is a lobbyist who represents, among others, the French Quarter business interests opposed to the casino. They think if people are gambling, they won't come to their restaurants. Ferguson says the casino bill never would have passed without Governor Edwards.
I guess I was stupid to believe that he really wouldn't get directly involved in the casino.
Edwards' involvement with casinos is not just political, it's highly personal. He's a high roller, and like all high rollers, when he gambles, he gets free meals, limousines, and VIP suites from casino operators anxious for a shot at his money. Except he's the only high roller with $1 billion casino deal in his hands.
What's your game? Craps. It's the only form of gambling that I do. And to me, while it is a gamble, because every time the dice are thrown, you don't know what's going to happen, it is far less of a gamble for me than buying stock on IBM.
And lately, he's done pretty well at it. This year, along with his 28-year-old girlfriend, Candy Piku, he was in Lake Tahoe and won. And last year, some 3 months before the casino legislation was introduced, he gambled at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas and won big.
It's been reported that you won $400,000 there over New Year's.
That was in the newspaper, and it's probably not accurate.
More or less?
That was in the newspaper, and it's probably not accurate.
Do you remember whether it was more than 400,000?
Oh, sure. But it's irrelevant. I mean, whether it's 350,000 or 450 or 250, what is the difference? I mean, it's a significant. I won a significant amount of money, and they paid me. We were very, very lucky. My whole family, all my children won. I won. Everybody on the trip with us won. It was one of those weekends when everything went right.
Don't you think it's a little unusual for a governor who's going to have a lot of say in who gets this gaming license to be gambling in the casino owned by one of the major bidders?
Yes, it's unusual.
Nothing wrong with it?
Absolutely not.
You could understand why somebody might say that's improper?
Absolutely. I can understand people being suspicious about that, and I recognize that. But on the other hand, that has caused me to be all the more careful in handling this whole situation.
He's a very lucky person. He's not in the penitentiary. I wouldn't question his luck.
John Volz, the former U.S. attorney in New Orleans, prosecuted Edwards twice on federal racketeering charges.
We knew that he left to gamble, but we had no idea that he was gambling stakes like that.
How much money was he gambling?
Millions. Millions. Over a period of 3 years, he lost $2 million.
According to testimony at Edwards' first trial, he lost half of that, more than $1 million, at Caesar's Palace. FBI agents testified that he borrowed all of that money from the casinos under aliases like T. Lee, V. Lee, and at Caesar's Palace, Ed Neff.
One day when I was playing, my luck wasn't running good. When I reached a certain point, I said, well, that's enough. So they handed me a marker to sign, and I signed it E-N-U-F-F, enough. And it went from that to E-N-F. But that's how that started.
Why do you think he used the aliases?
To hide the fact that he was losing so much money, or winning so much money. In other words, to keep his gambling records anonymous.
There was nothing in the Caesar's computer that showed that Ed Neff or E. Neff or Enough, as he says. was really Governor Edwin Edwards?
No, nothing. Nothing.
You weren't trying to cover up your gambling debts?
No, heavens, no. You know the only thing I do with my gambling debts? Pay them.
He not only pays them, he pays them in cash. According to the FBI, huge sums of cash.
There was a payment of $400,000 on one occasion, a payment of $380,000 on another occasion, and $100,000 that was paid through an intermediary of the governor's.
$800,000?
Yes.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Anything else unusual about it?
Paying any kind of a debt like that in cash, whether it's a gambling debt or any other kind of debt, indicated to us at the time that he was trying to conceal, obviously, the fact that he had this money. Since we knew of no bank, he put it in.
Governor Edwards maintains that some of the cash was just laying around the governor's mansion from previous gambling winnings. The rest of it, he says, came from other members of his entourage who put their losses on his tab. When it came time to pay up, Caesars dispatched a representative in a private plane to collect the money.
I was not going to fly the money to Las Vegas myself. It was in the form of cash, and I called them, and they naturally gladly sent a representative to pick it up.
You gave him a suitcase filled with $400,000 in cash.
A briefcase.
A briefcase. Now, you have to admit, Governor, it is a bit unusual for a Las Vegas casino to send somebody to one of the state houses to pick up $400,000 in cash for gambling debts.
Absolutely. It's also unusual for the bishop to send somebody to pick up $10,000 for some charitable function, and I've done that too.
Last year, Caesars joined forces with a developer from Hawaii named Chris Hemmeter. After hiring a number of the governor's closest confidants and after wining and dining prominent public officials, they were selected by the mayor of New Orleans to build the casino. The license to operate the casino will be awarded by the 9 members of the state gaming board, all of them appointed by Governor Edwards.
He announced not long after the bill passed that this would be the most pristine board in the history of the state of Louisiana. And on the first round, he named 9 people. 3 out of the 9 were involved in a bankruptcy. The 4th person refused to reveal any of her financial records to the Senate Investigating Committee. So they had to dump those 4 and put 4 more on this pristine board.
So who are some of the people who finally did make it to this pristine board?
One's a retired pediatrician who took care of your children.
I invite you to go to my hometown of Crowley, where he lives, and ask any 200 people you see. If you find one person who has a derogatory remark to make about him, I'll get him off the commission. One.
And there's a clerk who was making $13,000 a year until you appointed her to the Gaming Commission. Another appointee ran a beauty parlor. There's an attorney who specializes in paternity suits. This is a business that's, you hope, is going to be $1 billion a year business.
Well, certainly I hope it's $1 billion business, but they're not going to run the casino.
No, they're going to set the rules for the casinos. They're going to organize the law enforcement.
But you can't find anybody in Louisiana who knows anything about running a casino. We never had a casino here in my lifetime, so how could you find anybody who has any expertise in that? You take people from all walks of life, bring them together, they hire an executive director, and he knows something about that.
What's wrong with an accountant to make sure that there's no skimming? What's wrong with
nothing. As a matter of fact, one of the original appointees was an accountant, but he was taken off because of his bankruptcy problems.
Public opposition to the casino is growing in New Orleans, and the law authorizing it is now being tested in court. But Governor Edwards remains confident there will be casino gambling in New Orleans.
The people of this state who have elected me knew 2 things about me. One, that on occasion I went to Las Vegas, and when I went there I gambled, never was hypocritical about it. And second, that I was going to propose to the legislature that we license a casino in New Orleans. And 87% of the people in the city voted for me.
You ran against David Duke.
He ran against me.
What's the difference?
I won and he lost.
Betcha never thought big-time gambling would become not only legal, but respectable. So respectable that it's not even called gambling anymore. It's gaming. Only a decade ago, if casino gambling or gaming was your thing, you had to find your way to Nevada or New Jersey. Today, there are legal casinos in 23 states, many of them owned by corporate giants like ITT and Hilton, who rake in more than $17 billion a year in profit from the 125 million gamblers who are crowding America's blackjack and craps tables, roulette wheels, and slot machines. And don't for a moment think there isn't someone right now trying to convince someone in your town that what it needs to make ends meet is a casino. When gambling comes a-knocking, it sings a siren song of jobs, tax revenues, and family entertainment. An apparent no-lose proposition. But along comes Reverend Tom Gray to spoil the party. As spokesman for the National Coalition Against Legal Gambling, Gray is out to stop the spread of casinos dead in its tracks.
They never saw us coming. I mean, they had such a free ride. Governors were cutting ribbons, bands were playing, hell, they were moving across America like they were the wave of the future, the force of history. They were inevitable.
Not anymore. Everywhere he goes, Gray proudly displays a map showing the election victories his side has won. Over the past 2 years, 32 states have said no to gambling expansion, and only 3 have said yes.
And it wasn't that we beat them with lawyers, and it wasn't we beat them with governors. We beat them as people, because we said no more. Government shortchanges us when they tell us that the only way we can fund something is through gambling. That's a damn lie.
Look, gambling is as American as apple pie. Why shouldn't the government take its cut?
Because it compromises the government. You know, maybe the mob's going to do it, maybe someone else, but to have government enter into the contract is unforgivable to me. It's a real mission for us.
He's on the road 280 days a year, warning communities that gambling is not the cure-all it claims to be, that it breeds crime and corruption and addiction and fails to deliver real prosperity.
Hello, Tom.
His pulpit, free time on talk radio.
KFBK. We're talking gambling today. Tom Gray is here.
I'm here to organize and light fires from the bottom up with citizens.
Gray regards this crusade as a personal war. He was once commander of a rifle squad in Vietnam, then returned home to become a Methodist minister and settled in the little town of Galena, Illinois. But in 1992, the county commissioners invited a riverboat casino to move in, despite the fact that 80% of the town rejected it in a non-binding vote.
And they rammed the damn thing in anyway. Now you got me angry.
Angry enough to lead a boycott that turned the casino into a floating disaster. Business was so bad that the Illinois Gaming Board did the unthinkable. It closed the boat down because it couldn't pay its bills. But just downriver in Alton, Illinois, business is booming. This riverboat, which started up before Gray got going, is credited with revitalizing a dying community, making Alton a poster town for the gambling industry. And Mayor Don Sandage says there was absolutely no downside.
It's given us a shot in the arm. It's given us money to do things that really needed to be done.
Alton was nearly bankrupt. Then, through local taxes, the riverboat pumped over $32 million into the city treasury, enough to pay for a riverfront marina and build a new firehouse.
Hello, welcome to Alton Bay. How you doing?
900 people work at the boat, making it the third largest employer in town. To Alton city fathers, economics outweigh any moral reservation.
Have a good time and good luck. If people want to gamble, they're going to gamble. We might as well take advantage of it.
Is this what we've come to, where we're going to put a casino and say, this is what will entertain you, this is what will bring economic development, and this is how we will pay our taxes?
What's wrong with that?
A government that cannibalizes its own citizens is a government you got to get rid of. It makes losers of people.
So Gray fights back. Let citizens decide at the ballot box if they want gambling. Like in Pittsburgh, California, a town of 50,000 near San Francisco, where the city brass pushed for a casino to be built by a developer smack in the middle of a suburban community. When the neighborhood called for help, Gray, the Lone Ranger, rode to the rescue.
You as citizens now have got the future of your community in your hands.
He has an unlikely Tonto, a former member of the Chicago mob who goes by the alias B.J. Jehoda, who turned on the mob and became a star witness for government prosecutors. Now he testifies for Gray against legal casinos.
Remember, organized gambling is generally this. It is opportunistic millionaires trying to become billionaires at the expense of you, your neighbors, and your family. They're ruthless.
Ruthless as the mob?
In many cases, I think they're more ruthless because the mob generally only targets, keep in mind, the successful, the prosperous, the influential. The casino operators go after everybody. Nobody gets a pass.
Not everyone in Pittsburgh, California saw it that way.
That casino would be the greatest thing that ever happened.
With passions running high, there was a packed house for a debate held at the local community college. Pittsburgh's police department actually wanted the casino, since it would require hiring more police and a new fleet of cars.
This is what the police are looking at. We're looking at the safety of ourselves, of the community, our families, and this will enable the department in the long term to staff those officers and that equipment.
Conversely, if we're not to negatively impact your job, are we to grow more police? Is that the American dream? You bring something in that creates crime and then we hire more officers?
And Gray was not impressed when the man behind the casino, developer Albert Sino, said his plan would bring more than 500 jobs to Pittsburgh and generate millions for the city treasury.
Mr. Sino, I heard the millions there. The city gets that. What do you get?
There's a profit margin, just like the grocery store.
Well, grocery stores are 1% to 2%. Casinos in Illinois are making 20% to 30% profit for the owners. Can you put yourself between 1% and 2% and 30%?
No, but I would be happy with some type of a fair return on investment. And I can't tell you what it is because...
Well, in the Midwest, we call them cash cows, and the owners have them.
And this is the biggest cash cow of all, the slot machine. On the job 24 hours a day. No salary, no benefits. He is the license to print money. At Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut, the profit from the slots alone is more than $1 million a day. That's just from the slot machines at just one casino. It should also be pointed out that here in rural Connecticut, crime is also a bonanza. Calls to local police went up 400% 4 years after gambling arrived.
They plan to turn our kids and grandkids into serial slot junkies. They want you to bring your kids to Vegas. That's why they open up, what do they call those little things where you throw kids?
Nurseries.
That sort of thing.
Families in Pittsburgh, California need not worry. In that referendum, the casino was defeated by a vote of 2 to 1. Chalk another one up for Tom Gray. Not bad for a man whose only resource is a $24,000 a year stipend from the Methodist Church.
Your opposition calls you a zealot, a religious nut. True?
I think I'm a person that has a certain value base. And fanatic, I'll tell you, I'm locked on them, and it's them or us.
I think Tom's a sincere guy. Now, he loves the David versus Goliath.
Goliath's spin doctor is Frank Fahrenkopf, who's paid about $800,000 a year by the American Gaming Association to lobby for gambling. That's about 30 times more than Gray gets. Fahrenkopf is a Washington insider who ran the Republican National Committee under Ronald Reagan.
Why do you call it gaming?
It's always been gaming to me. There's no word games. I mean, Tom always says, well, they're trying to play games with the words.
You are trying to play games with the words. Gambling has a kind of nasty, suggestive connotation. Gaming is having fun.
Well, you said that. I'm not sure I agree with that.
What gives gambling a bad name or a reputation for immorality is you can't win.
Some people do win. Certainly not the majority, or there wouldn't be any business out there left. But other people view it also as a recreational activity.
Frank will say, but going to movies is entertainment. We're just like going to movies. Well, how many people walk out of the parking lot and shoot themselves after seeing The Sound of Music on?
Talk like that brought him national attention as gambling's nemesis. one small voice grew into a national protest.
Ayes 19, nays 41.
He lobbied heavily in New York, and last January, the state Senate rejected casino gambling. They only had to look across the Hudson River at Atlantic City to see what gambling has wrought. There's no question it's a gambling mecca. Busloads of day trippers stream into town nonstop, but most never spend a dime outside the casinos, which is great if you own a casino, but bad if you live in Atlantic City.
That's the free market system. That's capitalism.
Oh, 5% of the population will become compulsive gamblers, will lose everything they have. And Mr. Fahrenkopf says, Tom, you're hysterical. The vast majority of Americans can gamble without any problem.
Is there 4% or 5% that have a problem? Well, yes. Does that mean that you close that down and deprive the other 96 of exercising what is their right?
And I said, well, which 5 out of 100 do you want me to give you, Frank, when you come into town? That you'll take everything they own? Will you take care of them when they crap out?
No, he won't. But the industry does say it is trying to help the addicted.
The first grant's just been made to the Harvard Medical School, School of Addiction, up in Boston. You know,
how much?
The first grant's $140,000.
$140,000. Now, well, let's be big. That's chump change.
Okay, chump change. It's all a scam, is what you're saying.
Let's cover their ass.
Covering backsides is a lot more expensive in the political arena. In last year's election, the gambling industry gave millions to candidates.
Is one party more susceptible than another, or?
The beauty of this is we've caught them both out at the feeding trough in the open. They're both equal opportunity pigs at this point. Is the congressman in yet this morning?
Now the issue has become national. A presidential commission has begun a 2-year study to determine once and for all the exact economic and social effects of legal gambling. Tom Gray maintains that whatever the short-term benefits are, the price is way too high.
And I would not sacrifice one of my neighbors so that I could have a cheap meal and a little bit of tax money rebate. I wouldn't do it to my children or my grandchildren and say that America wound up being casinos.
Next Wednesday, the President's Commission on Gambling begins hearings in Washington. Chances are you were watching the football game just before 60 Minutes, and chances are you had something riding on the game. Betting on football is more of an American pastime than the sport itself. Millions of Americans bet hundreds of millions of dollars on any given Sunday. In the past, bettors might have sought out a local bookie to place their bets. It's now possible to do it from the comfort of your home, where all you have to do is point and click. It's not just the quarterbacks who take the hits on Sunday and Monday. Countless Americans lose big bucks when they fail to beat the point spread. It's as if the networks broadcast a weekly bingo bonanza. Almost $400 billion a year is bet on sports, most of it perfectly illegal. But this man thought he'd found a way around the law.
So let's root for the home team here. Let's bet on San Francisco.
Jay Cohen is the founder of World Sports Exchange, the internet's most popular and profitable online gambling site.
It's as easy as
Cohen was a successful trader on an equally big bingo game, the San Francisco Stock Exchange, when he and his partners realized how popular their own office pool was. They decided to expand worldwide on the web.
We thought it was a good opportunity to get in on the ground floor of a new industry that was just about to take off. It's very similar to the options business.
It's gambling in another form.
Yes, no different than the way people bet on stocks with options. So it was a natural segue.
The World Sports website is simply a high-tech bookie. To place a bet, you simply log on, establish an account with a credit card, and make your choices. If you win, World Sports credits your account. If you lose, you lose. Win or lose, World Sports wins. It makes about a 5% profit on the total take.
90% of our business is what's called traditional wagering, where people bet on the outcome of a game versus a point spread.
Football, I gather, is the big...
Football is king.
Football is king.
Yeah.
The NFL may be king, but World Sports offers a complete menu. Professional sports, college sports, baseball, horse racing, soccer, tennis. They even took bets on who might be booted out of Big Brother. It's a lot more reliable than your local bookie and a lot cheaper than flying to Vegas. But since sports bookmaking is illegal in this country in every state but Nevada, how do they stay in business? Well, it's simple. World Sports isn't in the United States. It's on an island in the sun. Antigua, the small island nation in the Caribbean where gambling on sports is perfectly legal. Cohen and two friends from the stock exchange, Hayden Ware and Steve Schillinger, established their company as a foreign corporation, paid the Antiguan government a licensing fee, and set up shop. They say that since the bets are not taking place in the United States, but on the company's computers in Antigua, they're perfectly legal. Cohen and his partners make no apologies for making an end run around U.S. law.
Gambling exists in the United States. People are always going to bet on the football games and the Super Bowl. It's either going to be with a legitimate business like ours, or it's going to go underground to the bookies and the bars. And we think this is a better way to do it.
I look at my job as being very similar to what some guy's doing right now at a day trader account. You know, allowing a customer to deposit money and take long shots by buying penny stocks. I mean, if you go to our website and you change Boston Red Sox to Boston Market, we're Ameritrade like that.
Okay, you've got Kansas City buying half a point, 6,000 to win 5,000.
It's just like the stock market without the fancy address and the pretension.
Carolina.
Located on the second floor of a strip mall in Antigua, just a few dozen computers and some computer-savvy Antiguans to take in the bets.
No problem.
The majority of our gamblers like to wait till right before kickoff. They like to listen to like the pregame show, and then the last half hour before the game we'll get, 100, 150 bets a minute.
Each of the dings and pings represents a bet. On any given Sunday during football season, World Sports will get in the neighborhood of 20,000 bets, ranging from $10 a pop to 20,000.
Expiration fee.
Sundays may be hectic at World Sports, but casual is the order of every day. When was the last time you wore a tie?
Last time I wore a tie was probably about 4 years ago on the stock exchange when they made me. Haven't worn socks too much since I've been in the Caribbean.
And hasn't missed any golf dates either. Schillinger and Ware have been in Antigua for 4 sun-soaked years, about as different from the noisy desperation of the trading floor as you can imagine.
Up for a drink?
Life is good in Antigua. Every diversion from the workaday screen is easily available. Their old colleagues may be green with envy while they just count the green. Is Sports Exchange making money? Profitable business?
Yes, it's been real profitable so far. The first year we were about break even, and our business has been doubling every year. So it's very profitable, more so than the stock exchange.
In fact, theirs is one of the few internet companies that actually shows a profit. They won't discuss numbers, but admit World Sports makes multi-millions, the largest of the nearly 1,000 internet gambling sites, which combined is projected to be a $10 billion industry. That's the kind of number that tweaks the curiosity of the U.S. government.
We thought we set it up totally legally. We checked with lawyers. We were a foreign company, licensed to do what we were doing.
But you knew that surely that this would attract the attention of law enforcement.
But I thought we had covered our bases. I thought by being totally offshore, we were out of the jurisdiction of the U.S.
Wrong.
You can't go offshore and hide. You can't go online and hide.
Attorney General Janet Reno talking tough on the subject of offshore online gambling. 2 years ago, the federal government filed criminal charges against the 3 partners under a 1960s law, the Wire Communications Act, prohibiting the use of telephone wires for purposes of gambling, a law that did not envision cyberspace. The charges raised some tough questions, like can the government dictate what's legal or otherwise on the internet?
The Department of Justice in Washington, their spokesperson was widely quoted as saying, it doesn't take place on U.S. soil. It's out of our jurisdiction. International offshore wagering, there's nothing we can do about it. So it definitely represented a change in the Department of Justice's position on the matter.
The World Sports partners, who'd broken no laws in Antigua, were now accused criminals in the United States. Cohen decided to test the American law and announced he was coming home. His two partners remained behind. They're considered fugitives from American justice, subject to arrest if they return.
Antigua doesn't see us as criminals. We're licensed and regulated by them to do what we do, and we follow their regulations. So in Antigua, I'm not a criminal. I'm not a criminal to my family. I'm not a criminal to my peers. I'm only a criminal to a handful of fat cats in Washington.
Why did Jay go back? He knew he was going to get nailed.
He wanted to prove a point, and we were not going to close up shop on something we really believed in with all our hearts. So we stayed to keep it running. Jay said, I'll go back and fight this out in court, and then we'll all celebrate in a year or two.
But 2 years later, Jay Cohen has little to celebrate. He was recently convicted on 8 counts. In sentencing him to 21 months in prison, the judge did recognize some of the weaknesses in the government's case. Cohen is out on bail pending his appeal. His lawyer, Ben Brafman, says the law that convicted him is just plain out of date.
We have taken the position from the beginning that the Wire Act does not apply to Internet gambling. When the Wire Act was passed and written, the Internet was not even conceived of.
Brafman says that the bets do not take place on the phone lines, but on the World Sports Computer server in Antigua. He says that the U.S. has no business dictating what's legal in Antigua or on the Internet.
What they're doing is they're telling Antigua, which is a sovereign nation, you can't do this, and if the people who do it happen to be Americans, they're going to prosecute them. The Internet isn't owned by anyone, and if one jurisdiction begins to take possession of the Internet, if you will, if you think about the ramifications, it's kind of scary.
Beyond saying the government will vigorously prosecute offshore gambling, the U.S. attorney would not comment on the case. So we talked to Senator John Kyle of Arizona, who supports outlawing all Internet gambling.
Mr. Cohen's attorney said that this should be a test case. Well, the jury convicted him, and so presumably the test is answered. The law prohibits him from placing a sports bet either electronically through a telephone or electronically through a computer. The net result is the same. You're placing a bet with a bookie.
And they were in Antigua operating quite legally under Antiguan law.
But under the American law, it is a violation of law, regardless of where you are, for American citizens to participate in this illegal activity. That's apparently what they were prosecuted for doing.
Kyle wants to pass an even tougher law called the Internet Gambling Prohibition Act, specifically designed to update the Wire Act to put World Sports and others out of business, because he believes the Internet could lead to a national gambling addiction.
If he really wants to talk about what makes it easier for compulsive gamblers to get in trouble, walk into a casino. What's one of the first things they do when you sit down at the tables? They offer you a drink, and more drinks, and all the free drinks you want, because that distorts your judgment. If he was really serious and worried about compulsive gamblers, he might be introducing a law that prohibited serving of alcohol within 100 feet of gaming.
Cohen and his lawyer also point out other hypocrisies in the government's efforts to put World Sports out of business. They say the biggest ripoff in gambling is perfectly legal, the state-run lotteries.
And the odds of winning are so remote that it's almost highway robbery, and the government benefits from it. In the courthouse we were prosecuted, and you could buy a lottery ticket in the newsstand on the ground floor, and on the 26th floor, we were being prosecuted for being involved in a gambling business.
Brafman says going after websites like World Sports will never work.
The only way you're going to enforce it is if you penalize the citizens who access the Internet for those purposes. It's not going to work by trying to enforce it offshore.
There aren't enough cops to do that, are there?
You're right. There aren't enough cops to do it. And I think if you balance the social value of trying to prohibit gambling, then you better make that a uniform rule and stop the hypocrisy.
Brafman and others believe the Cohen case will probably ultimately be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. Cohen's appeal is expected to be heard next year. As for his partners, they dare not return to the United States. If he loses this appeal, what do you guys do?
If he loses the appeal, I'll stay in Antigua, keep the business going. The business is fantastic. I just have to choose not to return to the U.S., which is a tough decision, but I've made that decision.
So what are these two poor little rich men to do? They're like a couple of survivors of one of those castaway game shows, where they won every prize except the big one, a ticket home. I suspect a lot of people watching would be quite envious of this kind of sublime exile that you're in.
I have no complaints.
No, we're real happy down here. When we first came down, it was work, 20 hours a day. But now we're starting to enjoy the life here. It would be nice to have freedom to come and go, back to the United States. But if you're going to be trapped somewhere, it's not a bad place to be trapped.
The point of making something illegal is to stop people from doing it and penalize them if they do. Then there's internet gambling. The federal government is clear gambling on the internet is against the law, and yet millions of Americans do it on hundreds of websites to the tune of billions of dollars. Internet gaming is illegal in the United States, and as we reported last fall, it's absolutely thriving. In the virtual casinos of the internet, you can bet on anything. Spin the wheels on slot machines and roulette.
16, red.
Roll the dice in backgammon and craps.
11.
Wager on any sport. Or take a seat at partypoker.com.
There will be more online poker games per day at the end of this year than all of the casinos in the entire world put together. It's a huge business.
Nigel Payne runs Sporting Bet, one of the world's biggest online gambling companies.
I don't need a hotel, I don't need any croupiers, I don't need any cocktail waitresses, I don't have to comp any drinks, I don't have to comp any hotel rooms.
You can play in your jammies.
You could.
You don't have to put makeup on.
You
have
don't?
to have your hair done.
You don't?
Just tap in a credit card or bank account number. You'll be betting in 5 minutes.
Dealer wins.
Internet gaming companies will make $10 billion in profit this year. They're all based overseas, but as much as 80% of their traffic and profit comes from the USA.
I believe there's about 12.5 million Americans today use internet gambling in its widest form. That's a hell of a lot of consumer power.
So much power that America's gaming industry, which has long opposed internet gambling, is shifting its position.
I think the issue is very simple, is that you should license it, regulate it, and tax it.
Terry Lanny is CEO of MGM Mirage. He says if his company could offer internet gambling, it could instantly double its $8 billion a year revenue.
If we could add our brand and the credibility of a publicly traded United States gaming company, this could be a vast business.
But MGM Mirage is shut out because the government says a law banning sports betting over the phone also bans all gambling on the internet. Obviously, it hasn't stopped U.S. citizens from doing it, but it has stopped U.S. companies from offering it.
The vast majority of wagers that are placed on the internet now are done offshore and illegally. And I, for one, think that to enact laws that you can't enforce makes no sense whatsoever.
Lanny and MGM Mirage set up their own offshore gambling website a few years ago, but to stay within the law, they could only accept bets from gamblers outside the U.S.
We just didn't make any money. That was a problem.
Till you shut it down.
We did.
It's all very odd.
Well, no, it is odd. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's gaming in every state but 2 states in the United States. If it's legal there, and if it's regulated and taxed and we're comfortable with it there, why don't we allow it also in the area of internet where so much commerce is going through the internet right now? It makes no sense.
Even so, no one in Congress is pushing for legalization. In fact, Senator John Kyle, Republican of Arizona, is going the other way. He has a bill to really crack down on what he calls a social pathology.
It's so easy to do, it's so easy for kids to do, it's so addictive, and it has been frequently demonstrated that there is a lot of graft and corruption in this.
Kyle's bill aims to choke off the money by prohibiting all U.S. banks and credit card companies from handling any online gambling transactions. Even if you curtail the credit cards, people who want to do this are going to find a way.
We may not be able to stop it all, but if we can stop the major part of it that's coming from offshore, I think we will have done something very, very good.
This is a big convention of the international gambling industry going on in Las Vegas.
and there is an entire pavilion devoted just to internet gaming. And many of those companies and their top executives are here. How can this be so open if what they're doing is illegal?
Steve Lipscomb is founder and CEO of the World Poker Tour TV show, which helped fuel the craze for internet gambling.
Why doesn't the FBI's and the Justice Department just come and get them?
The Justice Department says we have lots of other priorities, and they're right.
Those offshore companies are so brazen, they advertise. There are airborne banners, magazine ads, and commercials all over cable TV. How can a cable network air an ad for an illegal activity? It's all in the fine print.
It's fun, it's free, it's the world's largest poker school.
This is not an ad for ParadisePoker.com, where you can gamble, but for ParadisePoker.net, which they call an educational site.
You can play for free on those sites and learn about how to play poker.
And .net can advertise because there's no money. It's not gambling.
Correct.
But with identical logos and brand names, the obvious goal is to draw people from the free .net site over to the realgambling.com site.
So partypoker.net. I mean, any idiot knows that if you want to gamble, you just go partypoker.com. Anybody knows that. Even I know that. All of it seems such a sham. All of it.
They are certainly spending a lot of money to educate people about the game of poker.
Many of those being educated are kids, and many of them then try to play for real. John Kyle says that's the biggest danger in online gambling.
Our kids have access to the internet. They're frequently not supervised. And you can run up a huge debt on your folks' credit card very, very quickly.
To test that, we gave Alex Hartman, the 16-year-old son of this story's producer, his dad's MasterCard.
Why can't a 16-year-old just pretend he's his father? You know, he can go online, he's got his father's credit card, and he reads you off all the numbers.
That 16-year-old's got to give me 4 to 5 pieces of information about him, relative to his bank account, his personal details, where he lives, and other things. So I can be 99% comfortable that this 16-year-old doesn't even get through my front door.
This is his front door. Payne's company owns Paradise Poker, and it appears that he's right. Something made the computer suspicious about Alex. Warnings kept popping up, you must be 18 or older. And then he was rejected. But then Alex did what most kids would. He tried another site and another. On the third try, without any questions about his age, he was approved. In 5 minutes, Alex was playing roulette.
Place your bets, please.
In 10 minutes,
all right, all in black.
He was $100 in the hole.
No.
Here's what I'm thinking, that the pool of potential underage gamblers is so much more enormous for you, the online company, than it is for the casino.
Without doubt, which is why we have to be 20 times better. But it's also why we also have to be regulated. Unless you force companies to have these procedures, you're letting them all in.
Payne argues that if the U.S. legalized iGaming, all of the problems associated with gambling could be better controlled.
Let's talk about then addicted gamblers, obsessive gamblers.
Yeah.
This is a huge problem for online gambling. They can just be at work, they can be home, it can be any hour of the day.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a huge problem for gambling, full stop,
but even worse,
including internet.
Okay, but even worse for your form of it.
No,
well, why not?
Better for my form of it. Imagine you're an addicted gambler. You try and reload your account too quickly because you're playing too quickly. Stop.
So, okay.
I've got a closed loop of data. I can actually track what you're doing.
So some outfit in Aruba decides that somebody is gambling too much on their website. What are they going to do? Knock on somebody's door and say, you know, we think you're gambling a little bit too much on our line here. You probably ought to knock it off. That's not going to happen.
Even if you legalized it, you couldn't regulate it?
Most of this is done in foreign countries. We don't have jurisdiction in foreign countries. So even if we try to create some kind of standards, it's not to say that it's going to be enforced by a foreign government.
In other words, anybody can put up a site.
Exactly so.
Anybody.
And you wouldn't have any idea of who they are, what kind of information they're extracting from you. and whether they're ever going to pay you off if you ever win.
It is a relatively straightforward thing to get rid of those companies. Consumers vote with their feet.
You think they're that sophisticated?
Absolutely. If you're going to give me $100, you're handing over $100 to a picture on a computer screen.
Yeah.
Trust is an immense factor. If you say to an American consumer, this site is trusted and licensed and this one isn't, I promise you within 12 months, the problems that you're referring to will have disappeared or significantly reduced because consumers will have voted with their feet.
64 countries already license online casinos, and they're not just a bunch of banana republics.
The United Kingdom has passed laws to enact internet gambling. The United Kingdom expressly allows United Kingdom operators to take bets from American citizens.
It's written down that this is legal for you to do.
Absolutely.
Even though they know our government considers it illegal. In other words, in your face, America. Britain has become the new center of iGaming. Several companies, including Payne's, are traded on the London Stock Exchange and pay British taxes.
We've calculated that were America to have regulated this industry in 2004, the American states would have earned $1.2 billion in tax.
If it were legal, could they tax you?
Absolutely.
A British company?
Absolutely. And we would pay it, and we have volunteered to pay it, because this is an industry that has to be regulated.
MGM Mirage's Lanny believes it will be regulated. When?
Well, I wish I would ask you that if you tell me when. I don't know. I think it's when an enlightened president with an enlightened attorney general says it's legal in all these states, we tax it, we regulate it, let's do it, and let's do it for the internet.
Put yourself 10 years forward. Think people are going to stop gambling? Seriously?
Never.
Do you think the internet's suddenly going to go away? So what are we going to do in 10 years' time when this industry is 10 times bigger than it is today? And I often say to people, please give me one solid, plausible argument why you shouldn't regulate it. There's millions of arguments.
Because it's bad for you.
Is it bad for you to regulate it? If you regulate it, you control it. If you regulate it, you set limits. Is that bad when the comparator is, I'll just let them do what they want? Is that really bad? I don't think it is.
Since our story first aired, the federal government has cracked down on one of the largest overseas online casino operators, London-based betonsports.com. In July, the company's CEO, David Carruthers, was arrested and charged with racketeering, fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. Bet on Sports no longer takes bets from gamblers in the United States. It wasn't that long ago that if you wanted to gamble, you had to travel a long way. Today, to shoot craps or play slots, all you have to do is get in your car. There's probably a casino in your state or right next door. There are casinos now in 38 states, which use the revenue from gambling to help solve their bloated budget deficits. The main attraction at these casinos is now the new slot machines. There are close to 850,000 of them in the United States, twice the number of ATMs. We Americans spend more money on slots than on movies, baseball, and theme parks combined. But with the modern slot machines, there's a greater potential for a dangerous side effect, gambling addiction, as more people are addicted to slots than any other form of gambling. This is what slot machines used to look like, where you pull the handle and hope for three of a kind. This is what they look like today. The modern slots are like high-tech video games that play music and scenes from TV shows. You can play hundreds of lines at once, and instead of pulling a handle, you bet by pushing buttons, which means each bet can be completed in as little as 3.5 seconds. It looks like great fun, but it can be dangerously addictive.
Whether or not it's their intention, the gambling industry is designing machines that can addict people.
MIT anthropology professor Natasha Schull has studied gambling addiction for over 15 years. She's interviewed gamblers, casino owners, and slot machine designers. Do you think that most people would even think that a machine could addict you, that a machine can do the same thing that a drug could?
What addiction really has to do is with the speed of rewards. And these machines, if they're packing 1,200 hands per hour into play, you're being exposed. You could see that as being exposed to a higher dose.
A higher dose, says Scholl, because all that speed means more bets, and that means more excitement. And no machine is better for that than the penny slot, the most popular game on the casino floor. Because the bets are small, you can place hundreds of them at a time.
Another core aspect of their addictiveness is their continuous nature. You're not interrupted by anything. You're not waiting for the horses to run. You're not waiting for the guy next to you to choose his card to put down. There's no roulette wheel spinning. It's just you and the machine. It's a continuous flow without interruption.
I found that the machines were wonderful. I loved the excitement. I loved the people. I loved the camaraderie, the high fives when you win. It was just very exciting.
Sandy Hall lives only a short drive from thousands of slot machines in Rhode Island and Connecticut. Married with 2 daughters, she worked in a bookstore and used to look at the casinos as an entertaining break. But eventually, she was playing slots so much, she burned through her retirement funds.
My every thought and every being, if I wasn't at the casino, I was figuring out how I was going to get there. Where was I going to get the money?
You know, you sound like a heroin addict.
It takes your soul, it takes your humanity. You drive home pounding the steering wheel, promising yourself you're never going to go again, you're never going to do it again. And you know that you're going down, and you're going down, and you're going down. I became, from a nice person, I became a manipulative, deceitful, lying person.
Lies just manufactured themselves. You didn't even have to think about it.
Marilyn Lancelot, another slot addict, ended up embezzling over $250,000 from her employer in Phoenix, Arizona.
My daughters lived within 2 houses away. They did not know I was stealing money or gambling until one day 7 police cars drove into my yard and took me away in handcuffs. That's how they
Handcuffs?
found out. Yeah.
This is gambling for gambling's sake. And the aim is not to win a jackpot.
She's not talking about most people who go to casinos. She's only talking about addicted gamblers. Are you saying that they'd rather stay in the game than win the money?
Yeah, not only am I saying that, but I found instances where gamblers who won a jackpot then became irritated because it stopped the flow of play.
Researchers at the University of Waterloo in Canada measured how players respond physiologically while they gamble and showed that the new machines can make them think they're winning, even when they're not. The gambler almost always gets some money back. If he puts in $1, he might get back 50 cents. But the sounds and flickering lights trick his brain into thinking he came out ahead. The constant feeling of winning creates so much pleasure, says Natasha Scholl, that regular players can slip into a trance-like state, a place she calls the zone.
One gambler told me that when he's in the zone, he couldn't remember his children's name.
You go into that trance, that zone, that box. Nobody can touch you. You have escaped from reality. No one can ask you for anything.
When you sat in front of those machines, did you get in the zone? Did you have a buzz?
I was having a love affair with that machine. That was my love. If anybody came near it or touched it, back off. Don't touch my machine. It was the same as a kiss from a lover.
Really?
It was sweet, sweet.
And yet, not everyone is convinced the machines addict people. Listen to Howard Schaefer, the director of the Harvard Medical School Division on Addiction, the man the gambling industry loves to quote. And your position is machines are not addictive, that machines, inanimate objects, are not addictive?
Machines didn't make me do it. If slot machines caused addiction, then most people who played slot machines would develop addiction, and it's the opposite.
But at one point, you said slot machines were the crack cocaine of gambling.
I did say that.
And how does that square with what you're telling me today?
Not everybody who uses crack cocaine becomes addicted.
Yeah, but nobody's going to sit here and try to tell me crack cocaine isn't addictive. And if this is like crack cocaine, the conclusion is that it's addictive.
I don't come to the same conclusion because the majority of people that have used cocaine have not developed cocaine addiction. only a small minority have. And the same would be true with gambling.
The problem is that that small minority that does get addicted is hit hard.
You are getting a little dose of gambling in your brain every 3 seconds. It's a gambling IV. And there's a drip, drip.
Doctors Robert Breen and Henry Lasser are gambling addiction specialists at Rhode Island Hospital. They've treated 1,300 slot addicts who, when they try to stop, look like heroin addicts in withdrawal.
And they're coming in, and they could quite literally, they have shakes. The cravings they're physically having these responses, and you tell yourself it's got to be they got to be on something, and it turns out that they're withdrawing from the gambling.
Slots in particular.
And yet, state after state is turning to slots as an easy way to raise revenue and increase jobs. And no state has been more aggressive in luring gaming in the last few years than Pennsylvania, where the opening of the Sugar House in September made Philadelphia the largest U.S. city to house a casino. So far, there are 10 gambling halls in the state with plans for 61,000 slot machines. An 11th casino on the drawing board would be close to the main entrance of the Gettysburg National Battlefield. Governor Ed Rendell, who's about to leave office, championed the casinos.
Look, gambling is not anything we should say, oh, thank Lord we have gambling. But it is a decent way to raise revenue where the upsides that's produced is significantly better than any downside that comes from it.
You said there were downsides to gaming. What are they?
The biggest downside is that some people lose their paychecks. But understand, Leslie, they're not losing their paychecks because Pennsylvania instituted gaming. Those people were losing their paychecks in Atlantic City, in Delaware, at the racetracks,
so why not lose
or in
it
West
here,
Virginia. Well, if they're going to lose it anyway, let's get the upside. We were getting all the downside and none of the upside.
The upside, he says, is the $1 billion the state got in gambling revenue last year, which was used to provide a $200 a home property tax reduction, plus more relief for senior citizens.
People have been gambling since organized society was formed on the banks of the Tigris and the Euphrates. They were gambling. And they will gamble as long as there is life on this planet. And that's a fact.
No one's saying that people can't gamble. This is about government using gambling to prey on human weakness for profit.
Les Bernal is head of the national organization Stop Predatory Gambling. He and Massachusetts State Senator Sue Tucker have been fighting a move to bring casinos and slot parlors to the Bay State.
We're in the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And the daily voice of government to most Americans is, we're gonna push casinos and we're gonna push lottery tickets.
Well, but you have a situation where states are desperate. They're way over budget. They have to find revenue somewhere. They know people will gamble.
As a revenue raiser, it defies every principle. It's regressive. In other words, it takes far more money out of lower income people's pockets than higher income. It is cannibalistic. In other words, it eats other forms of revenue. When you have your citizens dumping $2 billion down the slots, they're not buying a new car, and you lose that tax.
You brought these casinos to the state. Do you ever just say to yourself, oh my God, there are a lot of people who are suffering, and they're taking whatever money they have, and they're throwing it away in these casinos. And do you ever just say, oh, what have I done?
You don't listen. Anyone who has that bent would be doing it in other places had Pennsylvania not legalized gambling.
The counter-argument is that you're creating new gamblers. But then lots of new gamblers.
You're not creating new gamblers.
Well, because it's down the street. Just logically.
But those people play the lottery. They bet on football. How much money is bet on the Super Bowl?
People are losing money for the state to get its revenue. They're losing money.
Let me answer this. I've known you for 2 or 3 decades. You're a very smart person.
But not now.
But you're not getting it.
I'm dumb now.
You're not getting it. Those people would lose that money anyway. Don't you understand?
Our pressing him on this point led to this.
You guys don't get that.
I do get it.
You're simpletons. You're idiots if you don't get that.
We couldn't figure out why all the emotion. But his main point was that gambling is good entertainment and people should be allowed to make their own decisions about it. But since the first casino opened in Pennsylvania 5 years ago, calls to gambling addiction hotlines in the state have tripled. Sandy Hall says her problems didn't start till 3 casinos opened near her.
I cannot read my local newspaper without having full-page ads of upcoming events and slot play and free this and free that. The exposure is phenomenal because of the proximity of 3 casinos.
Fewer than 25% of Massachusetts residents went out of state to gamble.
That's a lot of people.
75% didn't.
I know, but
that's
25%.
the group the industry wants. They want the 75% that can get on the tee and go to a nearby casino and get in trouble with gambling. That's the playbook.
Yes, our March Madness brackets are already a mess too. But here's one safe prediction for the 2019 NCAA basketball tournament that tipped off this week. It will feature more wagering than ever before. That's because last year the Supreme Court overturned a federal law and ruled that it is up to the states to decide whether they want to legalize sports gambling. New Jersey led the way, many more followed, and more are planning to soon. This shift will bring a windfall to bookmakers, sports leagues, and states' tax revenues. But at what cost? This is the first year of widely legalized sports gambling, but 2019 also marks another milestone, the 100-year anniversary of the Chicago Black Sox scandal, when a team in the clutches of gambling mobsters threw the World Series. It's a reminder that, you might say, there's no such thing as a free hunch.
And away we go.
Morcell gives it up.
Thursday's opening day of March Madness provided a feast for college basketball fans. 16 games in one day and another 16 on tap the next.
Oh, the Euro! Major highlight.
Super teams, Cinderellas, and nail-biting finishes.
Queen, corner 3 at the buzzer, air ball, and Auburn hangs on!
But for all the familiar trappings, this year brought a new wrinkle.
Hit it, baby!
On Thursday, gamblers thronged FanDuel's New Jersey sportsbook. Think of a sports bar where you can bet on anything. People also put money down on total points scored, which highly seeded team will lose soonest, even whether a team with a tiger mascot will make the Final Four.
Next is LSU.
Some wagers were made with a clerk at a betting window. More were made on mobile phone apps with just a tap and a swipe. And some of those bets were made on games as they were being played. It's estimated that March Madness generated $10 billion in gambling last year. Yes, $10 billion. Virtually all of it through illegal bookies or offshore websites. You have an event like the NCAA tournament, one of the most wagered upon sports events of the year. You got to think more money is going to be wagered this year than ever before.
The amount that we can measure will certainly be much larger.
Ryan Rodenberg is a law professor at Florida State with a specialty in sports gambling. Make like a bookmaker, set a line. By the end of the year, how many states have some form of legalized sports gambling?
By the end of the year, there'll be 15 states that have some form of sports betting, and probably a dozen more that have passed a law but just haven't put it into effect yet.
So by 2020, more than half the states will have some form of legalized sports gambling.
Yes.
$50.
And as legalized gambling spreads across the country, Rodenberg says unpaid college athletes are ripe targets for unscrupulous bettors.
The typical situation in terms of bribing someone to shave some points, you just don't see that at the high-level, professional level. But the one area where you do see it, and there's countless examples, is in college sports, particularly college basketball.
There's people that will do what they need to do to make a buck at the expense of an 18 or 19-year-old kid.
Mike Hamrick is athletic director at Marshall University in West Virginia, one of the first states to legalize sports gambling after the Supreme Court ruling. You can give your athletes tuition, scholarship, room and board, but you can't pay them. And someone comes along and says, here's $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to corrupt a game, they're susceptible, you're saying?
It's very tempting. It's very tempting.
It's not like gambling on sports hasn't existed before. Why are you so nervous this year as opposed to last year?
It's right in front of my face, John. It's illegal.
Hamrick made it clear that his worry is far from isolated.
And most athletic directors that I've spoken with feel the same way. It's like, oh no, it's here. What do I do?
Before coming to Marshall, Hamrick was athletic director at UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. At the time, the one place in America where sports gambling was legal. Right after he took the job there, Hamrick went to a home basketball game. UNLV was winning by what he thought was a comfortable margin.
And the game was almost over. One of our players had a wide open layup and didn't take it. And the game's over and the fans booed.
Fans booed?
Fans booed, and my wife looked at me and said, this is really going to be a difficult job. We beat this team as bad as we did, and the fans want us to beat them worse. And I said, I don't know. And the guy beside me who was with me at the game said, that's not why the fans are unhappy. They're unhappy that if this young man would have made that layup, UNLV would have covered the point spread. So right then, I said to myself, this is something we got to keep an eye on.
By now, he's had to build an entire infrastructure, adding staff to monitor and protect his athletes.
They can be compromised. Our job is to make sure they're not compromised.
How do you do that?
You educate them. You see a key player on your team driving a brand new car, you got to find out where that car came from.
All right, guys, listen up.
It isn't just gamblers trying to pay off players that Hamrick worries about. It's also gamblers seeking insider tip-offs from players and staff, particularly about injuries.
That seems like a big challenge to keep those people from your players.
Absolutely. And that little bit of information could make a big difference. I met with all our medical staff, and absolutely no information's out there on injury, period. You don't tell your wives, you don't tell your brother-in-laws, you don't tell anybody.
But talk of injuries and their impact on betting lines is still everywhere.
Does the injury to Van Der Esch change how you would bet?
You can't follow sports these days without hearing about picks.
I'm all in on Dallas, the Mavs.
And odds, and who's fit to play and who's not.
We hope everyone had a lovely Thanksgiving of wagering.
It hasn't happened overnight, but gambling, long seen as a vice best kept at arm's length, is now embraced in popular culture.
I love gambling. It's the best.
Ryan Rodenberg, the law professor, stresses that this is a huge shift from the days when every network and every sports league wanted nothing to do with sports gambling.
For decades, it was, this could corrupt our product, this is going to pollute competition, and we can't have this.
Exactly. And that was the consistent message that they said both in court and on Capitol Hill, that they needed to keep sports betting illegal.
You want the spread or the money line?
But as soon as the Supreme Court freed states to legalize sports betting last May, the pro leagues immediately reversed course. In sports terms, they transitioned from defense to offense.
MGM Resorts will be the NBA's first official gaming partner.
Within months of the ruling, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the National Hockey League all made deals with MGM, and the NFL partnered up with Caesars Palace.
It's amazing how quickly the landscape has shifted.
Joe.
Joe Asher is the U.S. CEO of William Hill, a British-based company that runs the biggest sports gambling operation in Nevada, and aspires to do the same in every state that legalizes.
It was about 15 years ago when the city of Las Vegas wanted to buy advertising on the Super Bowl, and that commercial was turned down. So to go from that to having the Oakland Raiders moving to Las Vegas in a stadium that's right behind Mandalay Bay is just a stunning shift.
High fives everywhere.
No surprise, it's a shift driven by dollars. Recent research by the American Gaming Association found that, perhaps contrary to stereotype, today's sports gamblers tend to be younger and wealthier and better educated than the population at large. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver was one of the first leaders in mainstream sports to see the economic opportunity.
The data is clear that if somebody has a bet on a game, even a small bet, they're much more likely to engage in that match. They're much more likely to watch it. They're more likely to watch it for more minutes. They're more likely to be interested in the participants and to follow the sport. So there's no doubt there's a business component to this.
A huge part of that business will be what's called in-play wagering. Hundreds of options to bet during games.
When you and I were kids, people bet an hour before the game or whenever and then waited for many hours for the game to be over. Now, people are betting constantly throughout a sports match. They're betting on quarter scores. They're betting on the amount of points a particular player will have in a quarter. In some cases, they're betting on free throws.
Want to know where legalized sports gambling in America is headed?
Deflection and in.
Look to professional soccer in Great Britain and Europe, where in-play betting has been stitched into the fabric of that culture for years.
Over there, the in-game, real-time betting, which is all technology enhanced, that's what the big deal is.
In Europe, it's about 50%, and here clearly it's growing rapidly, and I think it'll continue to grow.
And in this brave new betting world, Adam Silver claims that legal gambling is much more likely to be on the up and up than the old way with the neighborhood bookie.
Make your case. Why does legalized sports gambling, why do you think that decreases risk of corruption, not increases it?
I think it decreases risk dramatically because we have access to the betting information. I think when you have an underground business operating in the shadows, you have no idea what people are betting on your own events.
Because of technology, you can essentially get a fingerprint for every bet that's placed. You can detect unusual and unnatural line movements, bets.
That technology can facilitate betting, but it can also facilitate detection.
Absolutely.
The proponents of legalized gambling say, listen, moving this into the sunlight is going to decrease risk, not increase it. You don't buy that?
I don't buy that.
Why is that?
No.
What are they wrong?
It's gambling. It can be handled to a certain extent, but nobody can sit here and tell you that they can deal with this and be 100% clean. They can't.
That's at least partly because technology makes gambling much more accessible to many more people. In states where mobile betting is allowed, up to 3/4 of all wagers are now made on phones. Just download an app, which, by the way, can detect whether you're within state lines, and start betting.
So you're even sitting in the crowd at a Marshall basketball game. Take out your phone and you can bet on the game you are watching.
Absolutely.
And the fact that people will bet on every detail of every game presents Mike Hamrick with one more reason to worry about how gamblers could corrupt college athletics.
If you were an 18, 19-year-old person from a difficult background and you didn't have a lot and someone put their arm around you and said, hey, don't want Marshall to lose tonight, but if it gets late in the game and it's 2 touchdowns, miss a tackle, drop a pass, fumble, that can happen.
It must scare the hell out of you.
It does.
It scares Hamrick enough that he's giving the names of every one of his players and employees to every West Virginia casino and gambling operator to ensure that his people abide by the NCAA rules prohibiting any sports betting.
Now that it's legal, what it did for you is put pressure on you as an athlete.
Hamrick also regularly invites FBI agents to come to campus and speak to his athletes.
Don't get involved. Walk away.
They have to understand that if they get tied up with the wrong people, there are bad things that can happen.
Scare straight.
Well, I don't want to sit here and tell you we're going to try to scare our student athletes into not gambling, but we are.
Now, a few minutes with Andy Rooney.
I have good news for you tonight. According to an American Gaming Association report, revenue from casino gambling fell by almost $2 billion last year. A lot of people are out of work, and it turns out that when people are unemployed, they gamble less. You'd think they might gamble more, but they don't. There's some good things about everything, I guess. In 2008, casinos earned $32.5 billion. Last year, they earned only $30.7 billion. The thing that bothers me most about gambling is that people fritter away money so they don't get to spend it on things that someone else has been paid to produce. Gambling produces nothing. There's only so much money in the world, and if it's lost at a gambling table, it's money that isn't spent on things America makes. I mean, who's best for this country? A machinist at an automobile plant in Detroit or a blackjack dealer in Las Vegas? The gambling casinos keep something like 20% of everything bet for themselves. So there's no chance of anyone but the casinos winning over a period of time. They make billions. And where did the billions come from? They come from all of us, because we're the losers. I mean, suckers is what we are. If I write as though I was above all this, I'm not writing right. I've gambled half a dozen times in Las Vegas, and even though I know how dumb it is, I think I can win. I've never won, but that doesn't stop me from thinking maybe next time.
I'm Morley Safer. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.